covering news where you live. This is 5 News.
Well, thank you for joining us here for the latest news and weather. I'm Joe Ellison. Video of a football Friday night game shows a crowd starting to run after a person was seen with a gun. This was at the game between Bentonville West and Tulsa against Booker T. Washington. According to police, the suspect dropped a pistol, hopped a fence, and then fled the area. Investigators say there are no known injuries. The football game was suspended with a few minutes left in the fourth quarter. Now, that same night, Wolverine football posted on Twitter saying they loaded up the buses heading home with everyone safe. Bentonville West was awarded that win. And a similar scene at a separate game in Oklahoma on Friday. A 16-year-old was killed, 4 others injured after a shooting at Choctaw High School's game. An officer's gun also fired. Police recovered 2 guns and 8 rounds at the scene. So far, there is no information about a potential suspect. And food and safety experts will continue looking into an E. coli outbreak in Northwest Arkansas. The University of Arkansas identified an outbreak among students last week. As the Department of Health continues to look for a source, many could still be within the 3 to 4 day incubation period. That means if exposed, the symptoms could show very soon. Kristen Gibson, director of the Center for Food Safety, says she's concerned about anyone who's sick that thinks they can wait it out, especially if severe symptoms start to show.
You need to seek help. You should go see your healthcare provider and just be sure that there's nothing else that should be done or additional interventions because it can progress rapidly in some populations, and that's when they end up in the hospital with secondary complications.
Well, with 4 hospitalized and 100 showing symptoms, so many cases in such a little time has concerned the ADH. And while they look for a source, Gibson says this could signify that it came from one source. She says contaminated food or water are often the cause of these outbreaks. All right, before we get to more news, let's get a check of that weather with meteorologist Zach Scott. And Zach, it looks like we're getting a bit of a cool down this week.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. This is what we were focused on all last week, saying, hey, this heat wave, it's tough, it's intense, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. We are expecting cooler weather going into the next work week, and now we are in that next work week, and it is going to stick around all week long. We're talking 80s to low 90s overall for highs, lower humidity. Overall, a quiet pattern, though. Even though we don't have that blocking high in place, we just don't actually have anything coming our way. Nothing coming down the pipe right now. So, hey, we'll continue to keep our eyes on it. We've got temperatures in the mid-80s right now for Northwest Arkansas. Plenty of sunshine. We'll have some scattered clouds mixed in at times, a little north wind, 5 to 10 miles per hour. Highs in the upper 80s to around 90 degrees will be likely really over the next several days. We'll have a mix of some upper 80s and lower 90s in the River Valley, and that is a lot better than the triple digits we saw last week when, again, the big blue age, that heat dome, was parked over the central U.S., really baking us, keeping us quiet. Again, now it's out in the western U.S. through the rest of the work week, and that means we're going to be dealing with some cooler air that's invaded the eastern U.S., and we're right on the edge of that cooler air. We're like right sandwiched in between. Hotter air just to our west, cooler air just to the east. Again, no storm systems coming our way in this northwest flow, so we're just going to be dealing with a lot of sunshine, dry weather. Eventually, though, Joe, that does start to build back in by next weekend, and so that means we're going to start out September with another heat wave. Is it going to be as hot as what we just saw? I don't think so, but I think it'll be close. We're still talking some upper 90s and triple digits. We'll have more on that throughout the week coming up.
All right, thanks, Zach. We'll enjoy it while we can. Well, it has been talked about for decades, dredging the Arkansas River to make room for bigger barges. That work along the river from Tulsa to Mississippi River is finally happening. 5 News anchor Darren Bubb tells us what this means for cities along the river, including Fort Smith and Van Buren.
11 million tons of cargo are shipped every year on the river. That's with most of the river at 9 feet deep. This project would make the entire river 12 feet deep, meaning bigger barges carrying more cargo.
We believe when we go to a 12-foot channel, we'll see an increase in about 40%.
Fort Smith, Van Buren, and the entire state will benefit from the increased competitiveness.
Cassandra Caldwell is the Arkansas Waterways Director. She says this will put the state in a better position to attract new business.
It's going to stimulate existing manufacturing businesses and agricultural users. It's going to lower transportation costs. We're looking at less congestion on the interstates. The navigation system directly and indirectly supports almost 65,000 jobs nationwide, with over 32,000 of those in Arkansas alone.
Caldwell says don't expect this project to be finished overnight.
It's going to happen at the speed of the federal government. So a lot of it's just going to depend on the funding. I'm hearing estimates of about 10 years to get it completely done.
Until then, larger barges will just have to wait. Caldwell says despite that, it hasn't diminished the excitement from local businesses.
They're ecstatic. You know, we've got some industry here that uses the river and has used the river for a very long time. And they have worked diligently, I'm talking for 30 plus years, to try to get this project to come to fruition. And to see it happening is just, it's wonderful.
Jay Townsend with the Corps of Engineers says patience will be key.
It's a big effort to dig up the Arkansas River system too, but what we want it to do is work for itself.
In Fort Smith, covering news where you live, I'm Darren Bobb, 5 News.
Well, thank you for joining us here today for the latest news and weather. We hope you have a great day. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.